What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Sly Jordy, and welcome back to another episode of F1 25 Driver Career Mode. Today is part 3, the Japanese Grand Prix. But if you missed last episode at the Chinese Grand Prix, it was another great result for us. In fact, we also picked up the fastest lap. Not that it matters anymore. This is the first season where the fastest lap does not earn you a point anymore. But yeah, we have P4 in the driver's standings, mostly down to Oscar Piastri, of course, DNFing the first race, and Red Bull just tripping over each other because obviously they're quick enough to get wins. Verstappen, of course, won the Shanghai sprint, but DNF'd 9 seconds, I think it was, in the lead in the Chinese Grand Prix. And also, we just had the completely wrong strategy. In fact, we could have had an even better result than P5 because we were on par pace-wise with Leclerc and Piastri for that race, especially in the first stint. But we changed strategy halfway through under the recommendation of the Racing Bulls strategy team from the mediums to hards that I was originally going to do, which was the one-stop. Instead, we did the mediums to hards to softs. Because there was pace, genuine pace in the softs, at least in the first stint. But yeah, as opposed to the mediums and the hard strategy with the one stop, definitely wasn't the right course of action. So basically what we're doing is I'm now going to be turning up the difficulty. Originally I put it at 100 and, well, originally I put it at 95, but I've decided to turn it up to 102. Yeah, originally we had it at 95, then we turned it up to 100 for the last couple of races. But I feel like I feel like we could push the difficulty just a little bit more. So we're going to go with 102. Maybe we'll do 103 depending how this race goes. But yeah, we're going to go 102, which is the highest I've ever had a difficulty in the F1 game. But yeah, we've got some R&D to go through. Of course, I can't actually see my R&D points. There we go. I think they disappeared then. But I've got 260 R&D points. We do have the Beam Wing coming just before the Japanese Grand Prix. Although I'm pretty sure I've rushed this one. So whether or not it actually comes remains to be seen. So I'm going to save my points just to see. Yeah.
To say that we've had a major issue on the production this week, and the entire development package for the weekend has failed. Any redevelopments will need to be ordered from the R&D screen.
Well, the good thing about this is even though we're not going to get it this weekend, it is pretty much guaranteed for Bahrain. As once a part fails, yeah, it won't fail again, at least in the driver career mode anyway. I don't know what the My Team is like. I haven't touched it just yet. We'll see, though. This is also part 3. This is, of course, part 3, and I'm recording this on the Thursday, which is probably when I'm going to upload it as well. This is the final day of early access, so this will most likely be, you know, the last driver career episode that is followed in successive days. So I think we'll try My Team tomorrow or within the next couple of days. But we got some weekly resources arriving as well, so more points can go towards the R&D. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if we share R&D points with Hajar or if we have our own. But in terms of everything that we could possibly have, we do have everything. Hajar has ordered the overwheel winglets, so pretty much everything that could be in development is in development. And a lot of them I don't think will be arriving until the Bahrain Grand Prix or just after it, unfortunately. So yeah, without further ado, it's time to head over to Suzuka, and this is the LiDAR scanned improved track for this one. China looked pretty decent last episode. It wasn't LiDAR scanned, though. It's pretty much the old one that we've had, well, ever since the last time it was updated, which I don't know when that was, but definitely way before, like, even F1 22, because I've not seen it get a major update since I played in F1 2020. I didn't try it in 2018. I don't remember doing it in 2019, so yeah, and I haven't seen any major upgrades for it. But yeah, we're right back to the normal weekend format, which is good. That means a lot less editing for me. Yeah, the sprint weekend took me a while to edit. I pretty much spent the majority of that day editing that one. But we have some goals available in terms of the specialists. But I'll go through these on my own. Obviously, these are things that we'll do in the background. But yeah, without further ado, it's time to get to qualifying around the new and improved Suzuka circuit.
A warm welcome, everybody, from a venue that has seen plenty of sensational laps over the years. Remember, Verstappen in 23, Vettel in 2019, some phenomenal pole laps. But whose will it be today?
Well, I, for one, am hoping we can get in some phenomenal qualifying laps today, especially with the height in difficulty. It's going to now be even more difficult to get into Q3, so we got to make sure that each qualifying lap we make it count. So we come around the final corner on this new and improved LiDAR scan Suzuka track, and of course with all the tracks joining the F124 updated tracks, a lot of the tracks in this game are now looking incredible. Hell, even China didn't look all too bad, even though that hasn't been updated in years. But you know, when we get into next year's game, most of the calendar will have been scanned by then, and it will look so good with all the new cars. But yeah, in terms of how the track feels to drive on, it's as good as ever. It's Suzuka. It always feels great. It's why a lot of the Formula 1 drivers love this track, despite the racing not being the greatest anymore because of how big the cars are and the dirty air. As we now come around the final corner, Oscar Piastri sets a 130.7. How close can we get to that? A 130.9, so about nearly 3/10 off, which isn't too bad. It is enough to get us into Q2, but you know, I want to make doubly sure of that, so we went out on another set of fresh softs just to make it through to Q2. 6/10 up gets us into P11, so not a big surprise for us there. We usually make it into Q2. The midfield is just so close together at this point. But another big surprise, well, not really a surprise at this point, as we're now 3 episodes in, Charles Leclerc once again out in Q1. And I think his AI becomes overconfident as we now go out onto a set of old softs. I think his AI becomes overconfident and thinks his initial lap you know, is enough to get through Q2, and it clearly isn't. You know, there's so much track evolution and so much tyre deg in this year's game that you pretty much have to set a second lap from now, you know, unless you put in a really phenomenal lap. But, you know, again, it's Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, so I don't really know any excuse you can give him to be knocked out in Q1 there. But, yeah, it's going to be really tough for him. Another recovery drive beckons for the Monegasque here, as we now do another Q2 lap, this time on a set of fresh softs. We're in P12, so not a bad lap. It seems as though most of the grid was also doing a lap on old softs. Of course, we do need to save a set for Q3 and maybe even the race as well. But yeah, 7/10 up nearly should be enough to just about get us through. In fact, we're getting almost a second, about 9/10 over our original lap, which isn't too much of a surprise, but we make it through into Q3 in P9, just about. So I think I might have found the right difficulty, perhaps. We'll see. But another surprise, George Russell in the Mercedes is out in P11, and Esteban Ocon once again in the Haas has made it through into Q3. Other than that, no real huge surprises. Carlos Sainz sets a pretty good lap in the Williams, but of course, like I said, the midfield is just so close together at this point. But now we're into Q3. I originally set my laps on the mediums, so which might be a mistake. We maybe should have saved it for the race. We'll see what happens, though. I'm pretty sure we still have another set of mediums to use regardless, so it's not too shocking. But this Sector 1 isn't going too well so far, even though we are on fresh softs. I just don't think my cornering, my reaction time was the greatest compared to my lap on the mediums. I set 2 laps on the mediums, so obviously at some point the fuel would have been even lower. Maybe it comes down to that. I don't know. But Max Verstappen sets a 128 dead, so he'll be making it pretty far up, probably even pole position for him. But we've improved now going into Sector 2. nearly a tenth up, over a tenth up now, pushing towards 2/10, so it's been pretty good. We're using a bit more overtake on this particular lap though, just to make it through the mediums, but we're now pushing towards 3/10 as we go through this slow, slowing down through the left-hander, but now onto the big back straight, nearly 6/10 up, and we are still gaining time, using as much ERS as we possibly can, over 7/10 now, 8/10, pushing towards 9/10. This is going to be a monstrous lap as we are now getting close to nearly a second improvement. But again, it is over the medium, so I don't really know if it's a good representation as we are now over a second. 1 second, 1/10 across the line. What's it going to be? It is P8. So, yeah. I think the difficulty is still pretty good, especially judging on how quick the Racing Bulls is in real life. We're around the guys that we would expect, except Carlos Sainz in the Williams has set a bit of a better lap, so maybe there was more time to find during that lap. I think there definitely was during Sector 1 in particular, but without further ado, let's go to the race.
We come to you live today from the Mie Prefecture in the south of Japan's Honshu Island for a race that has seen many title deciders over the years. Some simple, some controversial, but all contributing to a legacy that makes the Japanese Grand Prix an indispensable stop in any Formula One season. A lap of this historic racetrack covers 3.6 miles. It's the only time during the season that we race on a figure-of-8 circuit. And the drivers can expect some intense G-forces through the 18 corners on offer here as they experience some of the highest average apex speeds on the Formula One calendar. Keep an eye out for overtakes into the final chicane. And alongside me here today in the commentary box, Anthony Davidson, glorious Suzuka. It's a bit like Silverstone, an iconic track for which we couldn't have an F1 season without it. And so much for the drivers to think about around here.
Absolutely, Crofty. The only figure-of-8 circuit that we have on the calendar, and you kind of wonder, why don't we have more? Because it's such a good format. The drivers love this track. It's got a great flow to it, a fantastic circuit. Not the best for overtaking, but my goodness, from inside the car, it's a real treat for the drivers.
Okay, this is our engine supplier's home Grand Prix, which means there's a lot of very important people here behind the scenes. I'd love to give them a strong result to watch today, plus a good result might make my post-race meetings a little bit easier.
So here we are on the grid, and we got some very different strategies to what I expected. Both 2 stops, both the recommended ones 2 stops. I think we're going to try going on the softs because they didn't feel all that bad during practice and qualifying neither. So I think it's worth giving them a go at least. And to my surprise and honestly maybe pleasure, we have a lot of hard tyres around us, which means we're going to get a monstrous start versus these guys if we can, you know, get off the line as perfect as we can usually do. But obviously we might have a bad start. Who knows? But yeah, with so many hard tires around us, there'll be mediums behind the hard tire guys. I'm surprised Ocon has gone onto the hards, judging by the fact that he's in a Haas versus clearly much quicker cars behind him. Like, I think it would have been a lot better to go on the softs. Maybe he doesn't have a softs ready. Maybe he used all of his fresh soft tires to get into Q3. You know, that's something to think about. But as we line up on the grid, aiming a little bit towards the left, I'm hoping to get in the middle of cars like Hamilton and Sainz and maybe even Antonelli. Antonelli's on the mediums, if you can just see in the distance there. But here we go as we wait for the 5 red lights. And it's lights out and we are underway, and keep an eye out for us as we go straight towards the middle. And look at that, overtaking Antonelli, Hamilton and Sainz off the line. We might even be able to take P4, which would be incredible for our podium prospects. And of course in front of the engine suppliers of Honda, but of course Lando gets the better exit. He does have more acceleration. He is in the best car on the grid. It was not a good start from Lando at all. In fact, he was really lucky not to lose any more positions as Max Verstappen has taken the lead or held on to the lead. Piastri will be in second place. Yuki Tsunoda in P3. Yuki, of course, this is his home race. A podium for him would be a dream. But so far, we've got Antonelli on the back of us. He is on the mediums. He was able to keep that spot. To be fair, I think he might have been took off guard by the start and, you know, us just slingshotting off the start line. But yeah, P5 on lap 1 from P8 is not too shabby at all. That is still big points for us. And yeah, pretty much our race pace is around P5, it seems. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that. But let's see what else we can do. Of course, Verstappen is getting further and further out ahead, but Norris is only just ahead of us. Unfortunately, though, we're not able to do too much about it. These softs will be going off now. My engineer is already telling me that it might be a good idea to pit 1 lap early. But I decided to keep current. I feel okay on these softs. We haven't been able to keep up with Norris throughout the entire race, but as we move on to lap 6, it becomes quite clear that these tyres definitely need to go as Antonelli looks to pass us. I'm surprised he tried to go around the outside there. I didn't move at all. So, yeah, easy defense right there. If Antonelli had gone down the inside, we would have had a much bigger issue. In fact, we probably would have lost the position. But I don't know what he was doing. Maybe he, you know, was too shy to pull the trigger. He is, of course, a rookie like us. So, you know, we don't know. But going on towards the end of lap 6, we are going to be pitting this lap to begin our 2-stopper, and we'll be going on to the mediums, which should have much better pace. Of course, Antonelli has some pretty good pace on those mediums as we now enter the pit lane. Hopefully we can get a good stop in. Of course, the really bad stop in China really contributed to us not getting as good a position as we would have liked. But the engineers, the pit crew do a really good job here as we are now on the mediums, coming out in P19, but we're in a lot of clean air. We've got Gasly, Russell, and Doohan ahead of us. I think Russell may have pitted already. I don't know, but Russell is pretty low down. I think he might have had a horrendous start. I don't know. I kind of wish I'd have recorded his start now, because how is he so low in P16 after qualifying a lot higher than Leclerc? I don't know where Leclerc is, but this is about where I'd expect Leclerc to be. Maybe Russell's been held up by Jack Doohan. He is surrounded by the Alpines, so who knows? I've got no idea what's happened with Russell, but we're looking to make an audacious dive down the inside of Pierre Gasly here. We need to make these moves as quick as we possibly can. These mediums aren't going to last forever. And of course, we're not going on to the mediums to end the race. Of course, we still have another stop to go. So we want this stint to be as quick as we possibly can as we now set our eyes on our fellow compatriot, British compatriot, George Russell, who is looking to chase down Jack Doohan, but those softs have gone off. So we'll be looking to overtake him right here, but it seems as though he has a lot of overtake, and with the DRS, he might be looking for a move on Doohan around the outside. We've got nowhere to go, or do we? As we dive down the inside, what an overtake into turn 1. Double overtake on both Russell and Doohan. That is exactly what we needed. We need to get a replay of that. I genuinely thought we had no way through. We were getting blocked here, but Doohan over defending against Russell allowed us completely opened the door to allow us to dive down the inside and take P13. That is one of the best overtakes I think I have ever done in these last few years of doing F1 content, as we now set our sights on the Kick Sauber of Bortoleto, who gets blocked by the exiting Yuki Tsunoda, who's just come out of the pits. So that's not good for us. Ideally, we would have wanted Bortoleto to get in front of Tsunoda, because Tsunoda's on fresh mediums. So obviously we would have liked the opportunity to get on the back of Yuki, maybe overtake him before he could overtake Bortoleto. But now, because of how slow Bortoleto is, we're going to be held up by him, and Yuki is going to be shooting off into the distance. He was going to anyway, but we would have had a bit more time to maybe get within DRS range of him and maybe get a toe off of him, but we weren't able to, and we have to dive down the inside here to get past Bortoleto, but it's too little too late. Tsunoda is already 2 seconds ahead, which isn't good because he wasn't too far ahead by the time we ended up pitting onto the softs. So maybe the mediums to hards was the better strategy, but then of course the different teams' tyre degradation comes into play, which is why we probably didn't have the mediums to hards recommended to us. But honestly, if we'd have done mediums to hards, maybe we wouldn't have been able to shoot off the start line from P8 to P5 on the soft tyres, you know, if we didn't go onto those. So it is what it is. But by the time we get onto lap 12, still on the mediums, just a few laps away from going on to the hards, we are in P5 now. Carlos Sainz is on fresh mediums. Leclerc isn't too far behind on the soft, so another good recovery drive for him as we now skip ahead to lap 16. This will be our pit lap, as Carlos Sainz has finally caught up to us. I'm not going to worry too much about defending against him at all. We're going to let him go. Because of course we're coming in. No point wasting any ERS fighting him. In fact, I probably should have switched ERS off completely just to save that little bit more. But or maybe we could have defended against Sainz. Maybe it would have helped in our second stint. But at the time of racing, I didn't really feel it was needed. So we come in now for our final stop. Hopefully this is a good stop. And the pit crew does a good job. We are now on the hards until the end of the race. And I think we are going to be aiming for P5. I've not seen Piastri in ages. So, yeah, I think it just comes down to superior tyre life for the cars like the McLaren, which is why we weren't able to keep up with Piastri. It's a different situation to China. I think in China we genuinely could have done the mediums to hards, but in Japan, that doesn't seem to be the case. There's a lot of tyre deg for us on both the softs and the mediums. So, yeah, it really can't be helped. We go on to the next lap now, looking to overtake George Russell. He'll be coming into the pits, though. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Russell, to be honest. A horrible race, a race to forget for him. I don't know where Leclerc is, but I guess we'll find out at the end of the race when we look at the standings. But for now, we're just basically doing our own race as we go on to lap 19. We are completely in clean air, both in front of us and behind us. So we're going to look towards the front end as Max Verstappen pits from the lead on the softs, and he'll be going onto another set of softs. So a very aggressive tyre strategy for Max Verstappen, but he needs it. Of course, the McLarens are better. So let's see if this tyre strategy works. Piastri goes into the lead. Norris is just overtaking Sainz, and just in time, I think. Either that or he was defending, but that's a very aggressive swooping round the outside from Lando Norris on Verstappen, but it doesn't mean anything. Verstappen's on much superior tyres. He needs to make these overtakes quick. He needs to make the most of the soft tyres while he can, but that is a very easy overtake from him. And now, as early as the next lap, he is already caught up to Piastri, so Verstappen is completely on a mission, and he needs to be after that, you know, engine failure from the lead in China. He needs this win, and Japan has always been one of Max's strongest tracks, as if, you know, he doesn't have any strong, as if he has any weak tracks anyway. And, you know, this is how it ends. Max Verstappen, a really dominating victory around Suzuka. He is going to take P1, and that is a victory that both him and Red Bull sorely need. Lando Norris will be coming home in second place. Oscar Piastri P3, pretty disappointing for McLaren right there. Yuki Tsunoda will be disappointed not to get a podium in his home race, but a P4 is very respectable, and it will be us in P5, 20 seconds behind. Leclerc catching up. I mean, you got to give some props towards Leclerc, but with pace like that, if he'd have qualified well, mate, he could be winning every race. So I don't know what's going on with Leclerc, but a very impressive recovery drive once again, but he shouldn't be having to do it in the first place. It is another P5 for us, strong points. Wow. Just a great race all around. I really enjoyed that. And of course, driver of the day is rightfully Charles Leclerc.
The checkered flag is out. We're going to be hearing that Dutch national anthem again because it's victory for Max Verstappen.
They led from lights out to the flag at the end, and their race victory was never in doubt, was it? Brilliant stuff by them.
There's room for 3 on their podium, but only ever 1 right at the top. Let the celebrations begin. One of the all-time greats celebrates yet again. It's another podium, it's another top step for Max Verstappen.
by the time I finished this race, I actually felt a bit bitter, just like I did in China. I thought we could have maybe got a podium, but you know, looking back on it now, recording the commentary for this video, it was clear that we had too much tyre degradation to keep up with the cars like the McLaren. So even if we'd have gone onto the mediums and hards, we might not even have gotten P5. So, you know, pretty good start from us, and that pretty much carried our race from there. We were able to capture P5 and keep it from there. But, yeah, not too many surprises. Ocon is very unlucky not to get a top 10 finish, but a double points finish for Williams. Lance Stroll was able to get into P9, so a good race from him, considering I think he started near the back of the grid, just like Leclerc. So, yeah, different tyre strategies coming into play. Yeah, he started in P17, so that is really impressive from Lance right there. I love it. I love the different tyre strategies going into play, because surely it would have made more sense for Fernando Alonso to finish in that top 10, but he clearly had the wrong tyre strategy. Maybe he got caught up in traffic. We got caught up a little bit in traffic, so maybe that came into play a little bit. But yeah, once again, I'm really enjoying this game. Guys, if you liked it, be sure to hit that like button as hard as you possibly can. Check out my stream on Breaking Point last night, and I'll also be streaming tonight, Breaking Point 3. So, yeah, be sure to check that out. Guys, I'll see you guys tomorrow for the next episode of F1 25 Driver Career Mode.